Hello, everybody. Here I am making you a video in terms of how to access our library databases and how to use them to their utmost once we have accessed them. So it's also important to consider these library databases as a great resource throughout your college career, and also metatextually how research intersects with language, knowledge, and power. The library pays thousands of dollars a year for us to have access to these. So it really begs the question, who has access to knowledge? Who is knowledge meant to serve? And is knowledge and access to that knowledge actually serving those who need it most? And with that in mind, let us see how we access our library databases. So first, I typed into Google EBCC databases. So I type in that, it'll bring us to general databases. So the one I want to show you today, which is kind of like the most expansive, biggest database that can help to start, especially as you're like thinking about more broadly, how are you researching and how are we investigating this topic initially, is EBSCO search. So as you can see, when I click on it, the page isn't working. Reason for that is there is a buggy thing going on with accessing the EVCC library databases when you're not on the EVCC internet. So how do we get around that? Well, first we got to open an incognito window and we start our process over again. EVCC database. And as you can see, it takes us to the same place. And where we want to go is this general databases, and we'll see all our databases again. So we'll put in our password that will ask us for. I think I need to re-enter my password for this. And so we try to log in with our regular EBCC login. And it worked. If it's still not working for you in an incognito window, you might need to reset your My EVCC password. I've asked a couple librarians about that, and that's the most consistent answer they give me. So give that a shot. If you're still not able to access the databases after utilizing an incognito window and after changing your My EVCC password, that is resetting it, then reach out to me or the librarian, and we can try to connect you to make sure you are able to access these great resources. Because again, your tuition is helping fund the access to all this really great research and resources, and you'll definitely need it throughout your college career in this class and in your future classes, in your classes for your major, and in your classes if you end up going to another higher education institution, they'll have EBSCO as well. So anyway, what do we do once we're here? So looking at our notes in terms of what we're trying to cover, we got quite a few things going on right in our recommended activity. So going from this list, let us start with researching a topic. So in the databases, you don't want to put in your whole research question. You want to just put in your keywords. So let's say we're trying to do some research on some connections between social media and mental health. We can put those here, social media and mental health, and you can change these two to be or not to limit it further as well too. So let's say we just keep them very broad. We're going to click search. So as we can see, we're finding some good potential resources and different kinds of sources. So a few different things to note. We also have our advanced search button. And this advanced search button gives you a lot more ways to filter and limit these results as well. Because, right, going back to our research list, we have 22,078 articles, right? That's a little too much to read for anybody. So you need to figure out, how do we narrow that? How do we make sure we're getting the most relevant resources for what we're trying to do? Well, one, you can keep playing with your keywords, of course. Two, and we can talk more about where we can find even more keywords, right? For example, here we have our subjects: mental health, social media, humans, adolescent, anxiety, psychology. So that's if we're looking at youth mental health, there are some more keywords, right? And this other one, mental health, social media, humans, adolescent. So, right, this is a big topic around adolescence. So there's some more keywords that you could plug into this to narrow it down further. So that's someplace you can find more keywords. Additionally, too, sometimes there's keywords within the pages themselves, but let's go back here and let's talk about narrowing our research further and coming up with less ones. So to find articles that you immediately have access to, you want to click on this full text button. And that will only bring up the resources that are most immediately available to you through our library. And you access those by, as you can see, clicking on PDF full text or clicking on the article, and then you'll see on the left-hand side PDF full text. Additionally, what you can do is, let's say, for example, going back to when our search was broader, social media and youth mental health. Let's say we really wanted that article, but it's not here on the database. Sometimes you can find it through Google. So let's see, we have this title and we have the author, so Weigel. So let's see if we could find it just in Google by that. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. We might have just found it right here. So it doesn't look like it has the whole article, at least on this page, but let's click on this DOI and see if it pulls it up. And see what we got. Summary, nope, we still don't have the whole thing. So sometimes you can log in via an institution, sometimes you need to buy the article, but often this is something you can do is just take that title and author into Google and search from there. Let's try this different one. Maybe we'll be more lucky this time. So let's say we have this title and Harness is the author. So let's do that in Google and see if we find it. So similar publication, likely because it's from a similar publication, it's likely not going to have the whole one, but again, you might be able to find it through your institution. Right, in our case, our college does not have access to this particular publication, but again, that's something you can always try, is doing that. If you don't find the one you're looking for, sometimes you'll find it through Google Scholar, or just through Google, and sometimes you won't. So just keep an eye out, as that is a strategy too. But anyway, going back to clicking this full text box to only finding the ones that we do have, ones immediately available to us. Like I said, you click on those, you can pull up the HTML full text, or you can pull up the PDF full text as well too, if you prefer that. Then additionally, what you can do to save these is a couple things. You can click print, and it'll save it, and then go over here, instead of sending it to your printer, save as a PDF, and then you click save. It'll ask you where you want to save it. You'll save it there. Additionally, too, what are other ways we can save these resources once we've found them? Other ways we can save them is the link. Important note, the link, this link up here, this URL will not work to find it again. What you need to do is create a permalink with this button over here on the right-hand side. And then you click this permalink and you copy that and you send it to yourself, or you put it into a document, and that's how you can find the link. But I would recommend always saving the title, as well as at least one of the authors, and that way you can find it just through searching for it again in the database, just in case. So that's how you save it. Those are 3 ways you can save. Just go to print the PDF full text or the HTML full text and save as a PDF, and make sure to write down the article title and the author and this permalink button. So in terms of what we got coming up next, let's go back to our search results and see how we can even narrow our research even further. So this is pulling articles from 1974 to 2024, but let's say we want to be more current, because that's what research should do and research writing should do, is try to be more current. And the more current your research is, the more often the more relevant, especially in like fields that are more like relate to science, mental health, social issues. The more recent, usually the more relevant and the more credible. But right, if you're like doing literature or something, it would make sense to pull articles maybe from older perspectives as well, since article literature is more timeless, but still same thing. If you have more recent research, it shows you, and more dated research in literature, it shows you have a good overall perspective. But in terms of like psychology and mental health, we probably want, especially for like a essay that's only asking you to use 6 sources, we probably want some of the more recent ones from the last 10 years, or maybe we want even less in the last 10 years. Maybe we just want the last 5 years. So here we can see it narrowed it from like 20,000 to 6,000, 7,000 or so, but let's narrow it more. Let's say 2018, the last six years. And again, it narrows it again. Additionally, we can look at different source types. So academic journals are kind of like the most prestigious forms of publications of research writing. So that is always a great source. But there's also news, magazines, reports, trade publications, and EBSCO has collected them because they're like saying, yes, these are credible sources you can use. And in terms of academic journals, There's also this term called peer-reviewed, and not all academic journals where research is published are peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals, though, what they do is they have a field of experts who review all the articles that go into the journal. So it's like almost like dually credible, because not only is it like a prestigious research journal, but it is also a review. All the articles that go into that journal are reviewed by other experts in that field, and as well as written by experts in that field. So let's click that, and then that way we'll only get like the most like scholarly articles, the most like research driven articles that are reviewed by other professionals as well. And of course, that's not always, you're not always going to find relevant articles that are peer reviewed. And sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. And sometimes you just got to do a little bit of digging to figure out which ones are most relevant to your purpose in your writing assignment. But let's say this first one was a good article, right? And like I said before, that's how you access it. But how do we know if it's a good fit? Well, something you always want to do is see the abstract over here. And I'll tell you about the abstract in a second. So all of these journal articles and resources and other resources have what's called an abstract. And this abstract is essentially a summary of what the research article is about. So in order to know if a research article or research resource from a database is a good fit for you, you first want to read the abstract to see like, okay, is this summary actually something that I actually want to look at in terms of incorporating to my research? It'll give you a pretty good idea on what it's about, and that way you can be like, check, yes, this is a good fit for what I'm writing about, or no, this is not a good fit and I need to move on. So let's say this one is a good fit. We want to access the full text. And you'll notice these articles are usually pretty long, right? This is a 15-page, very dense article with lots of research and data and methodological practices. So how do we streamline our reading of it to make sure we're finding the information we need, and so we're not wasting a ton of time reading every single word that's in this research article? And that's something you should always understand, is that nobody reads every single word in these research articles unless you're trying to like publish research yourself, and you really, really need to be meticulous. Otherwise, people are typically looking a couple places, and these are the places you should look first before reading the whole article and poring over every word. So the abstract is a great place to look again. The introduction in a research article to, again, make sure it's a good fit is a great place to know. That way you know why they're doing the research and what they're trying to find. And then the last place you want to look is typically what's called a discussion or results section, usually at the end, and the conclusions. Those are usually the places you want to look in a research article to make sure you want to spend time with this article. And then if you really want to take a close look at the data and the numbers and the way they conducted the research, then yes, you want to look in the middle of the article. But typically the beginning section, the introduction, that is, and the abstract, and then the ending section, which is typically the results, the discussion section, or other similarly titled titled section, will be the place to look, as well as the conclusion section. So usually one or the other is like kind of longer section in that, but those are the places you want to read. And then, like I said, if it looks like it's good to check out the numbers and the data and how the experiment was conducted, then you can look at that as well. For the purposes of this essay for our class, just, it's totally okay to stick to finding your quotes and your conclusions from the article in the introduction section and the conclusion and results/discussion section as well. So that's what you do in terms of like, make sure you're optimizing your time as you're reading these very dense articles. You don't want to read every single word. You just want to read those key pieces to make sure they're a good fit for your research. And again, if it's not, move on and find a different source. So next we have coming up another very handy thing about the library databases. So let's go back to one of our initial results, and let's say this was a good fit for us, and we decided we were going to use it for our essay. Well, to get into your Works Cited page, if you're using MLA, or your references page, if you're using APA, you click this Cite button. And this will generate the correct reference format for your particular citation format. So if you're using APA, you can copy and paste this little citation right into your works cited page. It's already done, correctly formatted. Or right, if we scroll down, we go to MLA. This is all done in MLA. You copy and paste that so that in your works cited page and your citation is done. So that is a super handy thing about databases as well. Then lastly, what I want to point to is, let's say you find an article that's a really good fit. So let's say this article is a great fit and you're like, yes, this was one of the best articles I found that has to do with my topic. One thing you can always do is you can always look at their works cited page or references page and see if they have any sources that are like relevant as well that they've cited that you can then look up. You can look these up in the databases like EBSCO. You can take these authors and these titles. I would take like the title name and then maybe one of the authors and throw that in like the search bar, just the title name. And you could do that within EBSCO, or you could do that within Google. But that's something you can always do is like, quote unquote, harvest other people's great research and incorporate into your own research as well, especially if you see them citing these other research in the articles that you find a good fit, then you can be like, oh, they keep talking about this one source that seems to really inform their work. I should maybe incorporate that source into mine because it seems totally in line with what I'm talking about. So then you go read that article, you then can incorporate that into your own works cited page. And similarly, depending on the citation style you're using, the citation might already be all done for you. So that is what to do with that. One last thing that I want to talk about, which are in slides 51 through 54 of your ongoing notes, is this idea of finding a gap in research. So let's say, you're researching your topic, but you're not finding a lot of great stuff for your particular topic, even though you're playing with the keywords, you're using ChatGPT to help you with keywords or your research questions, and you're still not finding like great researcher articles in Google or Google Scholar or the databases. That could be a good indication that there's a gap in the research in the field you're looking in, which is a cool thing because that means there's plenty of room to fill that gap and talk about the topic in the way you want to talk about it and examine the topic from the perspective you want to talk about it in a way that not many other people have, since research is so scarce. That shows there's a gap in that perspective, in that approach to the topic. And that's the cool thing. The tough thing about that is then you have to piece the research together under your particular form of synthesis. It's almost very similar to the way the summary analysis essay works at that point. You take what the sources are saying together, what they're implying together, what they're directly stating together, and then you throw that all together under your claim, under your perspective, under your lens, in order to say, these sources don't directly talk about these things, but I am connecting them. I'm making that connection for my reader to make sure that these topics are in conversation with each other. These sources are in conversation with each other when they weren't before, in order to fill this gap. So there's some notes here that you might take a look at in terms of right, what creates a research gap, right? Such as time, new developments, population considerations, positionality considerations, discourse community consideration, and context considerations. So I would look at these 51 through 53 slides related to that. Then going back to our EVCC databases, as you can see, right, we have a ton of databases available to us. They all have these little descriptions in terms of like what they're good for. So, consider your research topic and consider which database is a good fit. EBSCO is a good one to start because it's like so broad and has so much. But these other resources, like, some are good for like, if you're talking about controversial topics like, women's bodily autonomy or other kind of political things. There's like databases that are more tailored toward that, or issues in education or issues in psychology. So there's lots of specific databases as well. So take a look at this list of databases that's listed and linked in the page we're looking at right now in terms of the getting familiar with the research process page, and go from there and see which one is the best fit. So I'm happy to help anybody who needs more help on this idea of getting started with your research and navigating these library resources and the databases. One last one too is we go to EVCC library. EVCC library also, and so I just typed in that into Google. Excuse me, give me one sec while I pull up the appropriate page. It is right here, EVCC library guides. And they also have this Primo One search article, which can find books, ebooks, articles, and more from the library directly that the library has access to electronically and in the library itself. So, right, of course, books are great resources as well. So definitely utilize those and utilize Primo One search. And there's an additional activity list on the page in terms of utilizing Primo One search for extra credit. So, like I said, happy to help anybody if you have any questions about these databases or how to do research or this kind of other information literacy stuff. The librarians, of course, are great resources as well to utilize towards this end. That's their whole job. That's what they have their degrees in. That's what they, are there for and passionate about. So definitely use them, right? Here's their contact information up here. And the Writing Center tutors can also help you with research and research writing. So definitely utilize them. Utilize all of us as a resource. So we're happy to help. So thanks again for listening. Thanks again for going through this with me. And let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon. Bye.